desert, not diving with Scuba.
Okay. I mean, there's a couple of specific shows I want to talk about. I mean, the obvious one to start with is the Sphere.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this was a well, I mean, I think the opening of it, I think really caught people's imaginations. Like, it's a pretty unique thing. I mean, I think it's one of those things which is going to be copied, and you know, I guess it's sort of similar to like the new generation of stadiums, like SoFi in LA being a good example of one, with the enormous screens going all the way around, and this kind of like all immersive video format is, you know, something which I think is going to become more common. But the Sphere itself is pretty amazing. Just talk about it. I mean, I haven't been there, so and probably most people watching this haven't been there either. So talk about it in general.
So for me, it was the first time in Las Vegas overall. So the whole experience was pretty impressive.
Are you a gambler?
No, I'm not a gambler.
Okay.
Actually, I was once. You know, one thing that I like when I'm at places that I haven't been before, I take a cab or an Uber and go out of the city, and I take a run back in. And then I was with my running gear, and I have my ID, my phone, and a little bit of cash in like a small pocket. And I was running through, and then I was running through this old Vegas strip. You know, not the big one with the Belvedere or this fountain, you know, but the old one where there used to be this, or I think it's still there actually, this cigarette man, you know, with this wave, you know, from the really old Vegas. The Marlboro Man from the really old Vegas movies. So I just accidentally ended up there. And then there was this, I think it was called Golden Nugget or something, this really old casino.
The Golden Nugget.
That is very.
When Sinatra used to sing that, I believe. I think I'm right about that.
I don't know, but it looked a little bit like more accessible in terms of I don't have to wear a suit or anything.
Okay, a sort of down market casino.
So I was like, these people look like, you know, I could go in there with my running dress. You know, it wouldn't probably matter. So I went in, and because it was the first time, honestly, I was in a casino like that, I mean, I know what roulette is. I wouldn't be able to play blackjack. I have no idea about this game. I learned a little bit of theory of poker, but I also wouldn't want to sit on a poker table. I probably would get destroyed. But I understand the pure luck that is needed for roulette.
I mean, that's the real kind of like inject it into your veins kind of thing.
So I think I had like $50 with me or something cash. And then I sat on this roulette table, you know, and then they serve you drinks also then, you know.
Of course.
I took a run, I didn't eat, so I took a drink, and it like immediately hit, and it started being fun a little bit, you know. And then, you know, I always did like, this was this $10 minimum table, so very small. And then I just, another, just $10 on the, basically always black red, nothing else. Like, and we had 3 times black now. It has to be right now, red now. So, and then it was red, you know. And this calculation worked for like at least half an hour, and then I doubled my $50, you know, and had like 2-3 free drinks. So I was like, that's cool. So I went out with like $100 and a little buzz, you know.
Well, I mean, that's what you want, right? I'm pretty sure it doesn't always work like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. But I have to say, I really gambled very responsibly. You know, 3 times red now has to be black. This kind of worked somehow. You know? And I was strong enough to understand, this is not going to work forever. Like, if you leave now, you're going to have a nice evening. Like a very subtle, good feeling of making $50, you know. And that was great. And that was before Sphere. And sorry, I had this discourse now.
No, not at all.
But, and then Sphere, it was the evening with Peggy Who and Anima. And what should I say? I mean, it's the most professional venue that I've ever been to. Like when it comes to from like green room, like backstage, organization, hosts, technical rider, hospitality rider, like all the amenities that you need, like mixer, technical stuff. And obviously that infrastructure from the sphere itself combined with Anima's production team is kind of like Champions League level of at least what I experienced, of just being taken care of on show day. And then I don't know if you remember a little bit the setup of the sphere for Anima. So he had this two really big kind of like pillar looking
Right, yeah, with
structures.
the cables and stuff, like
yeah.
yeah.
And then he was like on top of this really high standing thing. So everybody else, like from, I think also Rampa played there, and Solomon and Peggy Hu and everybody played in front of that structure, like on this DJ table a little bit closer to the crowd. And then you had on the floor, you had the standing crowd, and then you had obviously those enormous seats and ranges, or how do you call it?
Banks of like
yeah. And I mean, I was there the day before. I wanted to check the venue before, and I saw Solomon the day before because it was always Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and so I had a little bit of an idea. And I looked also, I looked at the show from the seats point of view, which was very impressive because I saw the Anima show there as well. And obviously it's like this IMAX on steroids experience.
Right.
So you have stuff falling, not literally, but feels like falling from the top. But obviously when I went on stage just before playing, in the seconds before playing, it's a whole different experience because suddenly you kind of stand, first of all, in the center of attention, but then also you stand kind of in the center of the sphere in a way, because that DJ booth was like a little bit centered. And then you look up and that was really like a mind-bending feeling because I've never seen a screen like completely surrounding me in that scale.
Right.
You know, it felt like a little bit like, almost like if you were like 3D, or not 3D glasses, but VR glasses, but you are still in a real room.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
I mean, of course, if you wear VR glasses, you also still in there, but you don't see the real room.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Headset. I remember the first time I put on a VR headset was when I was a kid, when they first came out, and they had one in like one of the video game shops, and I just couldn't get my head around it at all. Like, kept like looking down, trying to look at my hands and stuff, and just like, kind of pretty disorientating.
It is. I just recently, I was, during Christmas, I was at a friend's house, and the kids, they kind of got like these meta glasses or what this is.
Okay, yeah.
And then I checked them out, and there's this built-in like feature of this museum thing. You can go to like museums and you can buy like certain excerpts of literal real museums that you can look at, and then suddenly you are in this art gallery and you want to start walking.
Right, okay. Yeah, but you can't, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't. Yeah, because you're gonna run against the table or whatever, but it's really, you want to like so I think if this stuff gets more refined, because you can still tell the pixels because you are so close to the screen, even if it's like high resolution, you can tell that it's not really HD type vision, not super realistic, and this is probably going to improve at some point.
Sure.
And then this really has potential for people to get lost in, I think, to kind of mix up actual reality with this. I think it's possible to have these issues in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay. How was the actual set? Well, you just we got to the point where you get up on stage and you look up and it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
So basically, are people, to what extent are you commanding the attention of the crowd? Because obviously that's,
I think with my music I have one advantage, that the sublimity that it has sometimes throws people off guard and immediately catches their attention, because by not taking their attention forcefully, I'm doing something different than most. And especially on those events, this effect works really well, because people expect big effects and they will get them. But if something more sublime and some more, sublime is the right word, right?
I think so.
Yeah, like some more discreet, a little bit more like slower, like
Okay, no, yeah, a little bit more, just more subtle, basically.
subtle?
Yeah.
That's the word. Sorry, what is sublime?
Sublime is sort of it's how would you just? I mean, I don't know what the definition of sublime is, but it sort of implies something is good in some way, in some kind of
Okay.
ethereal kind of a way.
Okay, no, I it's more subtle. I mean,
Yep.
and then with like starting the intro, I played a little bit longer intro, a little bit more ambient, a little bit more atmospheric because it was one of the really first slots, and people were still getting in, but then suddenly after 10 minutes it was already quite full because it was also the Friday, which is a good night and stuff, and then it went great. I mean, what should I say? I mean, I would tell you if I would have had difficulties, to be
But was
honest.
it? I mean, like materially speaking, the difference between having that level of, competing content to use that word, right? Because I mean, obviously, people are there at least partly just for the experience of being in the venue, right? I mean, we obviously bought an anima ticket and they want to see Peggy, whoever, all that stuff. But really, with someone like that, a big part of the curiosity for people coming in has got to be the visuals and just being there.
I have to say that the team there, they made really cool visuals for me also. Very abstract and minimal gray visuals, with like lines and a little bit of like white noise in terms of just less figurative, more graphically and organically also, with like wavy structures, quite dark. And I think that I loved this. It was amazing, to be honest.
How much was that happening live? How was that all pre-programmed? How much did you have to tell them about what you were going to play? All of that
They
stuff?
proposed some ideas, and they, like I said, this Anima Visuals team.
Yep.
I know them since ages.
Sure.
Also, Michael Tietze, who also works there.
Works at the Sphere.
No, at Anima
yeah,
team.
Yeah.
He used to do my visuals.
Ah, right.
Like
I kind of
10 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
So he knows exactly what aesthetics I appreciate and fit to my music, and therefore it was just great. This really low key, but given the fact of the craziness of so if you combine something that is in theory not as jumping in your face, but then you apply it on a scale like the Sphere, suddenly
Of course, it acquires
suddenly
impact.
yeah, exactly. And that was how this felt, this show. Yeah, it was something that could be like really serene and held back in another environment, but in this environment it was like and that also was the crowd reaction. So yeah, that was I think one of the most intense and most coherent and most special experiences that I ever had as a touring live act on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.